Heck yeah, dude. This is sick. This is super fun.
First and most important question, what is on your wrist?
Man. Okay, so today I'm rocking a Waltham. This is one that I'm really, really struggling to potentially sell. Waltham is a very cool company that kind of got crushed by the what was labeled by the winners, the Quartz crisis. But actually, I don't think it was a crisis at all because it opened up a lot of really cool opportunities for other brands. So Waltham doesn't exist anymore, and this is pre-Quartz crisis, so it has a mechanically wound Swiss movement in it. And what's really fun is, every morning as a part of my routine after the gym, you do the manual winding, and you can feel it hit its little tension spring and stop, and then you're set for the day. So yeah, Waltham Maxim on the wrist today. Yeah, very fun timepiece.
I want that to be your catchphrase, like Joey Tribbiani and Friends had the "How you doing?" Whenever you just meet a stranger, you're meeting an acquaintance. What's on your
Yeah.
wrist? You've
What's on
commented
your
that once,
wrist?
once or twice in my comments, and I'm so delighted by that because, like, I am the kind of guy if unless I'm sleeping, I never look at my watch to tell the
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
I feel naked without one on, so there's always
Yeah.
something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, watches are a great accessory for men in general. Like I don't mind expressing how I want to exist in any way, fashion, whatever. Like I just typically have always done whatever I want, style wise, jewelry, tattoos, whatever. But for a lot of guys, especially a lot of the younger generation, they're trying to figure out like how do they how do they sort of speak out without speaking out, and a lot of dudes turn to watches, and a lot of guys like I mean I use my phone for most of my functionality, right? But this is more just like a piece of jewelry that like represents me, what I feel like I want to wear today. What character do I want to play?
Yeah, how much of cost, how much does cost play a role in that? Because it's kind of, to me, hard to even care about jewelry, watches, if you don't have the funds to spend on them.
Yeah, that's a in the world of watches, that's actually a really, really interesting topic because some people look at watches based strictly on that bracket of price. And then the collectors that I seem to be really fond of are the ones that will have like a crazy expensive watch that, they inherited, yada, 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 and then like a $30 Casio. So yeah, like it's quite the spread. One of my most worn watches is very similar to the one you have. It's a Casio. It's in gold, very thin. Yeah, quartz. Yeah, exactly. And I have this rule because it's so affordable that anytime someone compliments me on that watch, I'll take it off and give it to them. And it's really fun. I was at Trader Joe's, and the guy was like, "Dude, is that one of those calculator watches? I've been wanting to get one of those." And I was like, "No, it's not the calculator watch. It's like the smaller version." He's like, "Oh man, that's so sick." And I was like, "Here you go." And his like world just exploded. He's like, "What? No way." And I was like, "Yeah, dude." Like, but I always tell the story. I was like, that's what I do. But the rule is if someone else compliments you, you have to return the favor. And now you
You're,
have it.
yeah, you're
So
unlocking
you know.
what I'm gonna just put that on my mission statement for life, and I would go broke at this point pretty quickly because
Yeah.
for anybody listening in, you can't quite read or make out what I'm wearing right now. I'm on Amazon right now. I'm wearing one of my go-tos is the Casio LA 680. And what I think is really unique about this, I have this in silver and gold, the stainless steel and gold. It's the women's version. It's very delicate on my mannish wrist, which makes it extra manly. And I have no qualms about wearing a woman's watch. I like the daintiness of it. It doesn't get in the way and I don't bump into it. It is currently selling for $49 on Amazon though. So that would be like, I'd love to have just 10 of them that I could go around. But it is my most complimented watch that I wear out of the 10 watches. I don't have really many expensive watches, but it is also the cheapest that I own too.
Yeah.
So interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's been times where someone will compliment me like a week after I bought it, and I'm like, shit. Like,
You get a freshly polished one. This one's all
yeah,
dinged up too. I'd be happy to get rid of it so I can just buy
yeah,
myself a new one.
get into it. Yeah, I love that you're rocking the women's variant of that too. Like there's such an interest. We live in really interesting times, especially like in divisiveness. And one of the most interesting things I hear in the world of watches is like, oh, that's a girl's watch. That's a girl's watch. That's a girl's watch. And as someone who is very open to hearing people's thoughts on why, I always ask for an articulation. Like, okay, help me understand. Like, and they say, well, it's small. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but like I understand why a small watch would work really well for a very small wrist, but what about a small watch doesn't work well with a larger wrist, right? And it's very interesting that they always just they're like, well, it's small. And I'm like, we already said that. Like, give me more, like, and it can be personal too. But I have a watch that's like around 24 millimeters, tiny little quartz that I love, and I'll stack it with like a silver bracelet, and I'll wear it with like a suit and other rings and stuff, and it's super trick.
Yeah,
And a
I'm
lot
reading
of
about
time,
this. So this one, it's 28 mils
yeah,
too, which
yeah,
like to me is a really nice size. And I have some dress watches that are about this shape too, and I like it. I also have like a 60 mil that I wear like I'm some kind of pimp with a cane who's about to arrest some hoes when I'm out with
hell
the
yeah,
lady. It's like
hell
big,
yeah.
ostentatious gold. I love it, and it feels more of like a costume to me where I'm wearing this. What there must be an explanation for you though outside of size. And by the way, this thing is super easy to adjust. Like,
Hmm.
this might be saying something about my bone structure, my very like actually feminine sort of wrists maybe, but fresh out of the box, this fits me like a dream. Like, it doesn't really rotate at all. It's super easy because I've gotten a couple people this exact same watch and it doesn't fit them so well. It's super easy to adjust. You don't need to take it to a jeweler to have them like tinker with it or take out links. It's just kind of like you put in a screwdriver and you can fix it in 10 seconds. So for the gentlemen who are concerned about the ladies Casio, at least, not a problem. Outside of size though, what does it mean? What's the a big clear delineation for you at least between a man's watch and a woman's watch?
Um, that's, I think, objectively speaking, the wearer, right? Like, if a woman is wearing the watch, then to them that's a woman's watch. And if a man's wearing a smaller designed watch, then that's a man's watch. I can't like design wise, so I studied design in undergrad, and like that's my background. And there's all sorts of things that go into these decisions, like the human factor, wrist size, the bone structure, etc. Like all these things get kind of like pushed into it. But maybe I'm like super new school in like this conversation to where, yeah, whoever is rocking it gets to decide. And a lot of times I will just default to what it was manufactured as, right? So I'll just say it is a woman's watch that I'm wearing, right? But if someone tries to say that that's like unmanly, then you're talking to me directly, and that's a totally different, now you're not talking to the watch, you're
Yeah.
talking to me. So,
I think
yeah,
it's
based off of, go ahead, sorry.
exactly, dude. It's not the aesthetic of it, it is who is wearing it. It speaks so much to a man's all due respect level of security in himself if he has a
Totally.
problem wearing a wrist. Because I would be so delighted to somebody to bully me in wearing a woman's watch. I'd say like, okay, you're looking at me the way that I look right now, and
Right.
you're concerned about my sexuality. Honestly, I love that for myself because I could use a little bit more feminization. Like maybe I could feel my emotions and actually tear up every once in a while instead of driving my fist through a wall. Like I need a little bit more
Right.
feminine energy. I'll happily
Right.
take it on my wrist. For the gentlemen out there though, like, and I hear this a lot with other fashion items, like, oh, those are girls' pants. I liked them before I learned that. It's like something to consider. And if you have problems with it, maybe a little exposure therapy. Wear a woman's watch, wear some women's pants. Maybe you like it. Maybe you realize, like, this makes me feel like I'm owning my sexuality even more, and I don't have to prove anything to myself rather than perform masculinity by wearing watches that are only meant for men.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the exposure therapy is great. And also I think at the baseline, like most of these terminologies people have to understand were invented based off of sales metrics, right? So like if you're in a store and there's just a bunch of watches, it's harder to sell a watch if you're looking for a woman's watch or a men's watch, right? So like a lot of these terminologies are just based, old school metrics of wayfinding, right? Like retail, etc. Realistically, like I have some women's jeans that like I was at Jack Mason and Buck Mason, something
Mason.
Mason,
There's
Buck
also
Mason.
Jack something clothing. It's confusing.
Yeah,
Buck Mason
I
is
think it was
the like
Buck Mason. They're in LA, right?
they're everywhere, I think, but definitely LA.
Okay.
People love that shit.
Yeah, so I was in a Buck Mason LA, and there was these pants and I was like, "Oh, those look sick. Like cool denim, yada yada." And I put them on. They were great. And then the lady was like, "Yeah, we get a lot of guys who want to wear the women's pants." And I was like, "Oh, these are women's." Like I didn't care at all. But what my rule of thumb was is like, can you see yourself in it and do you feel good in it? And that should be like, you should never let a label rob you from something that you experience that elevates your day. If you're feeling dripped out and like you're having a good day, you're walking different, right? Like if you put on a fit and you're like, man, these jeans just work really well with my build, then you're gonna feel good. And so you should never be like, oh man, these were manufactured with a small little tag that says for women, and so
Yeah.
like
Yeah, honestly, dude, like I sound like I'm in a high tower right now, judging the dudes who are a little insecure about wearing women's clothing and women's fashion accessories. Like it hasn't touched me so much with the women's versus men's clothing, but I am such a snob with brands, and by no means do I have money to be buying luxury brands. I be shopping in thrift stores, but if I find like something on a rack and I pull it off and I'm like, "Ooh, this is sexy." I like it. I like the fabric. It's totally my aesthetic. The first thing I do is look at the tag. And if it is like straight up Kirkland brand, Costco shit, it doesn't matter. Like I'll put it back on the rack because I'm kind of snobbish like that. How much of like brand snobbery do you subscribe to yourself, and how important is the brand when it comes to watches?
well, so a lot of that has to do with quality, and I'm a big quality snob for sure. And I will say that back in the day, at least up until the neo vintage era, the Swiss, the
Can you
brands,
I'm so curious
yeah.
about what you have to say, but neo vintage, can you define that for us?
Yeah, I would say like neo vintage could be like late 70s to like very early 2000s. That window. And it's sort of defined by a design aesthetic and language. We saw a shift leaving like the 40s, 50s and 60s into a more clear contemporary modern design aesthetic in the late 70s, and then through that era that it stayed relatively consistent, and then 2002 sort of came that Y2K aesthetic, and so that sort of pulled us out of that neo vintage aesthetic, and you can see it in automobiles and houses and shoes and everything.
So it's a
Yeah.
time frame, literally 70s to like early 2000 or 2000s, let's say, but it's also the simplicity, a minimalist sort of aesthetic. Would you describe it kind of like that?
Yeah, I would say that the time frame is a little bit wishy-washy on either bookends based off of what the designer was making. But in the world of watches, you can literally see a design language appear in like 1979 and then disappear in like 2000, right? And then in 2001 became more curvilinear, bigger numerals, chunkier designs, like more inspired by like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like the idea of a man's watch sort of shifted. So you went actually from really small, dainty, delicate dress watches that were very popular on men's wrists, Swiss made pieces like this. This is around 28 millimeters, similar size, to a little bit bigger, like 33, 34, 35 millimeter, with very clean, modern lines. And then after that, of course, it kind of went into that like Y2K sort of look. So,
Super
yeah,
interesting. So tell me
yeah.
more about brand versus quality.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very interesting. So Swiss Swiss had dominated the market forever, and then the first Quartz watch came out, and the Swiss were like, this is kind of like the villain of watchmaking, because we call it watchmaking, not watch production line, right? Like there's a
Quartz
guy
is referring to like a battery that operates it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like you went from a guy like filing gears and making tiny little intricate pieces to like machines stamping out parts, programming chips, pop a battery in, and like then you have a movement. And so the Swiss first tried to like push it down and say it's not accurate, it's not reliable, yada yada. But then there was a summit, and it actually outperformed Swiss mechanical watches by a long shot because it's just digital, right? It's just science, it's math. And so what happened is essentially during that neo vintage era, what the Swiss labeled the quartz crisis, because it tanked, it literally bankrupted so many brands like Waltham, right? Is that brands like Casio, Seiko, Technos, other brands that popped up, rather than putting money into watchmaking and paying some guy to sit there for hours filing down gears, trying to make a more refined movement, they put their money into design language and marketing. And so they would come up with these very beautiful, very, very slim, sexy, reliable watches. So back to your question about snobbery, there, it's a very interesting flow, right? So at the beginning of it, it was all who could make the most accurate, reliable, and we call them complications or functionality. Water resistant, had a calendar date, it had moon phase, different functionalities, and of course that was directly associated with more time investment into developing your product, which would mean that the cost would be much more expensive. So that's where you get the brands like Cartier, back in the day, Hoyer, before Tag Heuer turned into whatever they are now.
Those are two different guys, and they merged their names together.
No, we just say like more Hoyer, less Tag, like because it was an era of design where they just had Hoyer on the logo, and they were just they seem to have a better product than they do today. Or like a Patek Philippe, or Vacheron Constantine, the real big dogs in watchmaking. That's like ultra snobbery, right? But then you look at the movements and you're like, oh my God, like these are mechanical masterpieces. It's like Mozart in there, like doing his thing, composing and making every little gear and whatever work together. So then that sort of shifted the dialogue from reliability. So now you want to be snobby about a brand, but you get all the same features for a fraction of the cost. So then that, to me, that turns into a personal thing. Like a lot of people are like, oh, like I won't wear a quartz watch. And I'm like, okay, like once again, help me understand. And they're like, well, it's not as good. I'm like, well, okay, define good. And realistically, what it is they want to put their money into something that took a lot of time to create. But also, what they don't realize is that like something like this, because I sold a quartz version of this for like 350 bucks, right? Because it's quartz, it's 350. Because this one's mechanical, it's at least twice that, right? So you're not paying for more or less. You're just paying for time spent developing a product, and that's totally okay. Like that articulation is super fine. But when it comes to snobbery, like it's very interesting. A lot of people that I've met look at watches as a way to sort of express their ability to afford expensive things. And so, and that's where I personally draw the line, because then you're kind of leaving the art, right? And you're getting more into the ownership mentality. It's like the guy who claims he owns a Picasso, but it's in some sort of like air sealed vault, somewhere in the Alps, and like he never sees it. It's like, okay, like if I'm going to own anything, I want it like on my wall. I don't want it to just because it's got a name on it. Like I want to
Yeah,
use it. I want to live
yeah,
in it. I want to experience it.
yeah. So, how then do we define taste for ourselves? It's easier to point at the thing in the store that is the most expensive and assume that therefore there is value to it in that. I should assign value to it.
Yeah. Oh
It
man,
sounds
that's a
like
great question.
it's harder these days to really figure that one out because you don't really know how long something took to get manufactured. And certainly you can make now a mechanical watch, but still not have any humans intervene with it either. You can have machines manufacture it. Just because
Yeah.
there's not a battery doesn't mean it didn't take like 30 seconds to make, right?
Right, right, 100%. Yeah, and actually to that point, Michael, we're seeing a massive transition in machine metal manufacturing capabilities, right? Like I can currently, I could buy a five-axis CNC machine that will fit on my computer desk for $6,000, right? And if I were to tell that to the people making watches in the 80s, they'd be like, "You're out of your mind. Like, there's no way," right? So we're starting to see a major shift too, where I think if anyone's trying to define their own experience as to who they are, it's just trial and error, which is why I love the neo vintage era, right? Like you can go on, and I'll plug myself because I do a lot of hunting. You can go on my website and you can find something that's collectible. You can find something that is in great condition, that's around 35 years old, and you can look at it and you can compare it to all the other stuff on the website that all fall within those three categories. And you can go, ooh, that kind of speaks to me. And then the cool thing about the neo vintage era is A, they're not producing these watches anymore, so they are collectible items. So at any given point, you buy something for, let's say, 350 bucks. You might struggle to sell it for 450, 500, right? I'm not going to like boast these. They're not investment pieces, but you will get your money back because they are rare and beautiful timepieces. And so the trial and error from me has, and I've been afforded that as a collector, as someone who like gets a couple hundred watches delivered to me a month to go through and then bring to the world after months and months of hunting and sourcing, right? So like that's something that like really helps me define my narrative of like this is the lane that I really like. These are the watches that I'm really attracted to. But I think the cool thing about that journey is the experience. If there's anyone who's like watching this and they want to get into the world of watches, the two reasons that you should ever buy a watch is A, because you like it, and B, because you like it. Like that's it. Like it's super simple. If you like these big, gaudy, like total contrast to what I sell, rock out with that, man. Like my first watch was an Invicta. No, that sorry, not my first watch. The first watch that I personally purchased was an Invicta, and it was this like chunky. It looked like it was like a pilot's watch, but like 1G probably would have exploded that thing, but it was like totally contrast to what I wear today. And that's the same with fashion too. Just like dive in, man, have some fun. Like figure out the best way to figure out if something looks good on your wrist is to put it on your wrist to see
Yeah.
if you resonate with it.
Do you think what you don't see a lot with fashion trends, let's take clothing for example, skinny jeans become the trend, and all of a sudden they're not the trend, and then you won't be caught dead wearing skinny jeans. Is it different at all with watches where you find yourself, your taste maybe flip flopping with a little bit more frequency, maybe even day to day? One day you're chunky, one day you're old money aesthetic, super slim. Do you ever see that?
Yeah. I mean, so there, yeah, trends definitely lead the pack, right? So, like I knew, and you can actually start to see it today, like the neo vintage era is starting to come back, right? We're seeing companies like Timex re-release a Q. The Timex Q was, I think, dropped in like 80 something in the 80s, right? And it was like a super affordable, really awesome watch that everybody loved.
What do you
And now
call it? A Q?
the Timex Q, yeah,
Just with like the letter Q? Okay, yeah, very classic looking. I got it.
yeah. So there was the original Q, and now they're revamping these watches, right? So that it's starting to come back. So trends always have their weight, especially in the world of watches. For me, it's always been based off of what I thought was sick. and I've definitely missed the mark a bunch. Like looking back when I was like younger, just like what I would wear on the wrist, or like my dream was like to get a Rolex Submariner. Like there's all these ideas of like what's hot and what's not, and then you're looking at celebrity wrists and what are people wearing. But what's interesting is like I've never, when I was like 19 or 20, I never aspired to buy a watch like this, but I always thought that they were gorgeous, right? So I would see like someone like wearing, like Michael Jordan would be wearing a Cartier tank
Favorite watch of
at
all
some,
time, by the way. Goals.
exactly. Right, right. And it's so beautiful. And I recognized it as a beautiful watch. I didn't necessarily like want to wear that watch. And maybe in my youth I was sort of muddied down with ideologies that like this wouldn't work well with skinny jeans. Because I didn't see anyone who was my archetype: skinny jeans, deep V's, long hair, guy liner, drumming. Like, I didn't see those guys wearing Cartier tanks. I saw them wearing Rolex, or like, bigger, more like tool watch sort of style, IWCs, etc. But I still recognized it as hot. Like, I was like, damn, that's a sexy ass watch. And it wasn't until like my later days, I'll give you one that might melt your brain. If the Cartier Tank is your goal watch, it was my goal watch for a very long time, until I stumbled across the Cartier Tank AV, A space VIS. And it's a very rare variant of the Cartier Tank. It's just
Uh-huh.
a little bit more industrial with the screws. And
Yes.
that watch ruined me.
Yeah, this looked like kind of some kind of steampunk character made love with a Cartier tank, and they
Yeah,
created the 2.0
yeah.
version of the tank.
It's got a fascinating rumor behind that watch. There was some sheik of Marrakesh or whatever, and he was friends with the creator of Cartier, and he sent him a homing pigeon text. Hey bro, I love the tank that you made me, because Cartier is traditionally a French jeweler. They're very known for making royalty. So I guess he had given this guy a tank, and he was like, but when I swim in my marble lined, like swimming pool with the palm trees and all this, I have to take my watch off, and I don't want to do that. So theoretically, that's where the AV came. AV, I think, is French for with screws, and so they essentially made it waterproof so that he could swim, and that's how that watch was born. I'm not sure like if that's 100% true. It's kind of like the rumor has it that that's where that watch came out of. But yeah, that one, I saw that one in New York. And I didn't know it existed, and I thought it was a knockoff. I was like, is this even a real Cartier? Like, the hell? Like, there's these screws and it looks like a Santos in a tank had a baby. Like, what's going on? Like, very steampunky, very industrial. And the guy was like, let me tell you something. I was like, ah, sick. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's,
that's kind of the biggest fear. If I were to have a chunk of change and ready to spend money on it, how do you know what you're getting is legitimate?
oh yeah, that's a great question. In the world of watches, we say, don't buy the watch, buy the seller. So, like, as someone who's been in the market for a long time, and I bought a lot of watches, especially to sort of fund Demir and, to create content around and yada yada. And I've been burnt a lot. Fortunately for me, the price tags are smaller, like $300 ish. But what it always comes down to when I get burnt is like, man, I didn't know this guy. Why did I buy? I didn't know this guy. And so what I would say is like, you need to, excuse me, you need to buy the seller. And it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially you like build relationships before you pull the trigger
That's
on
what it
a
makes
on a
sense.
big watch. Like,
Follow Josh on Instagram and fall in love with him and realize that he's a sweetheart and he would never do you wrong. What's the biggest burn that you've experienced yourself buying a watch and you're just like, fuck, this is not what I thought I was spending money on?
yeah, ooh, So I buy bulk a lot. And it was just I had about 25 watches in a batch that were just crappy. Like weren't working, needed parts, covered in gunk, and they were all sort of like mushed in with a bunch of other watches that were good. And so essentially what this guy did was like, hey, I'll send you a bunch of watches. So rather than you spending $300 a watch, you can get them for around like 250, right? And that means that when you resell them, you have a little bit more profit. But what ended up happening is like out of those I think it was like 80 watches, 25 of them were just like not even useful. So I ended up spending way more per watch that was sellable, even story worthy. Um, but outside of that, I've been pretty fortunate because being a collector for so long, you meet really great people. And I already know the guy I'm gonna buy my Cartier Tank AV from. Like, we've been yapping forever on Instagram. When I went to New York, I went and saw him. He deals a lot in like very rare collectible, APs, Vacherons, like stuff like that. And he's just a cool dude. And so yeah, it was just more along the lines of like getting to know him light years, and always do this, by the way, always do this verbally. Always get into it, be like, hey, I just want to get to know you. I'm hoping to make a purchase in 5 years. Because energy of like, oh, I'm really interested in the Cartier AV, and then they will hunt for you because they want to make the sale. And then if you're like, ooh, I can't afford it, they'll be like, what the hell? Like why? So yeah, always go into it transparent, like, hey, I want to make this big purchase in 5 years. I just want to get to know you. Like, like what's your website? Like do your digging, read some reviews, yada yada.
Yeah.
So
What I
yeah.
find with this, as somebody who I have way more expensive taste than I can afford, there is indulgence with following people like your accounts, people who are higher status than me that I consider having good taste because I can kind of live vicariously through them a lot of the times without making a financial investment. It's my time that I'm singing into, but do you get the same thing when you follow somebody, when you start to have a dialogue, a transaction with them over time? You get a sense of like, I resonate with this person. I like their taste. I think they're worth the investment moving forward. Or as a matter of my own taste, it's something that I think I want to adopt for myself.
100%, man. Yeah, absolutely. And like Tyler, the creator, has put a lot of people on. Like, I don't really follow his music that much, but he's put a lot of people onto some cool style and tiny watches. Like a lot of people were like, small watches. And then they saw Tyler wearing like the little baby Cartiers, and they were like, oh, I guess I can adopt that persona. I can pull that in. So yeah, I do the same thing. There's a lot of people that I like follow on IG, and I'm like, damn, like they got such cool style, or like they drive a really sick car that I've been drooling over for months, like just whatever. And yeah, I can like live through that and then aspire to make that my own one day.
Help me work this out because I think about this constantly, the matter of taste. And I notice in myself the if you know, you know mentality where I won't consider something until I see somebody pair it with themselves that I already deem of high value. Your instance with saying Michael Jordan, was it Michael Jordan wearing the Cartier?
Yeah, yeah, the tank, yeah.
Where if you grow up and all of your role models are wearing something and then you see somebody who is also of a higher status wearing something that you don't recognize, you start to pattern recognize, and then eventually over time, that thing then becomes of the value that that person is associated with it. But otherwise, you don't think that thing has any value unless there is this kind of unspoken, God given in our DNA level of taste that we're drawn to. Like you said, there was this kind of inkling. I think that's a really sexy watch. But man, if I had the money, I'd spend it on a Rolex, not that.
Right.
Until you make that swap. So, God, if it'd be so awesome if that intuition that you felt that Jordan was wearing the Cartier and you're like, that's sexy. I wouldn't spend my money on it. You could like we're so preconditioned to be very tribal creatures that we're kind of gravitating towards the pack rather than our own taste. How do you get
Right.
away from that?
Ooh, man. Yeah. confidence and individuality is a huge driver in what I call wave makers versus wave surfers. And so, like, there's a lot of times that, like, I will see a character that, like, I really rock with for style, fashion, whatever, do something that I don't really um, visually like, right? But I think they're rocking it. And that's something, oh man, that's such a good question, man. Because that's something that I aspire to is just like, it's almost like, I would say the best way to, at least the way that I could sort of reverse engineer it, the best way to explore those things is to become very childlike. Like ditch your ego and don't care about um what the world's going to think, but allow yourself to explore something and be really bad at it and like fail and be like and then make your own observations, right? Like that's it. It's a hard game to play though because the older you get, the more you quote unquote risk, right? Like if I showed up to the office in like an outfit that really was like not office ready, you know? Like it's a big risk. Like some people might be, "Oh, yo, you are dripped out. That's so sick." And my boss might be like, "Bro, come here. Like, what are you doing?" You know? So yeah, the older you get, it is more of a gamble to sort of like allow that individual to speak over the tribe because we become more integral in the tribe, and essentially as a child, you know, you are allowed to make more risks, and the tribe will laugh at you or laugh with you versus be like, I don't know about that, you know, like so. It's pretty. That's an interesting. That's a really interesting topic.
Dude, I love what you're saying though, and it goes totally back to the childhood like innocence. If you don't have anything to compare it to, then you are only going off of your intuition, and that's exactly
Right.
what being a child's like. And then making mistakes, and then kind of you fall down, you bump into something and you look around to see if anybody's overreacting. And that's when you decide if you're going to cry or not. And the same way we match our behaviors to is anybody going to say that I'm dripped out or not? And if they don't,
Yeah.
I'm going to come to work tomorrow wearing something else or something more work appropriate, maybe. And that
Right.
kind of sucks because then
Yeah.
I think like a lot of my adult has been very at a very early age adapting for survival. Therefore, a lot of my taste is curated based on the preferences of others, whether it's through art or through just being a stubborn son of a bitch too. I've tried to reverse engineer this myself of like, what do I actually think about? Do I actually like this because I saw it on a celebrity, or do I just fuck with the aesthetic of it? Like at a
Hmm.
innate level where it doesn't matter if this was $2 or $2 million. It doesn't matter if I saw this worn on a celebrity or not. I like it just because I think it's dope.
Yeah. Yeah. There's man. That's such a pure spot to be. Like, yeah. That's kind of the goal daily for me. The more like the older I get, the more sort of disconnected from the norm I'm like aspiring to become, you know? Like I want to be that 80-year-old guy who's just like kooky and painting and like, you know, like just really living life and being 100% myself. And I look at a lot of people like you know, Anthony Bourdain, David Cho, you know, different people that I've seen sort of like dive into that and go counterculture and how rewarding it was. And so, you know, as an adult, I do constantly try to remind myself that um, like there is the pot of gold is at the end of making a wave for a bunch of people to surf. So there is a payoff of being an individual, right? But you don't want to be the individual who's recluse and like, ooh, don't look at me. I'm just myself. You know, you kind of want to be that individual that's like, hey, you should try this. Not what I'm wearing, but the wave I'm on. So that's definitely that's a deep one, man. That's a good one.
I think the bigger, more philosophical punch to this is you're trying to sell the idea of creating your own wave yourself. You're not selling the wave that you're on. And being what's difficult about being the recluse and we see this a lot with fashion of I'm going to be on the margins, I'm going to be avant-garde for the sake of being avant-garde, and then all of a sudden it's a performance again, and you can clearly see that that person is wearing a costume in the same way that that person, we see trends of various fashion items that people jump on because they saw it in TikTok shop. I also get it because who has the time to be researching everything and knowing what their taste is like? I'd much rather outsource my preferences to the crowd, just so I know when I walk out into the world, I'm not going to have eggs thrown at me.
Yeah, right.
So there is a balance, and like we need
Yeah.
the wave creators, and the people will happily ride the waves themselves. But geez, like following you, and I imagine I'd like to say that the people who I engage with, at least through the content that I make in my business too, it's a lot of dudes who are just kind of like, man, you can feel that they see what we're doing and they're like, I want to do what you're doing. I want to create the wave myself too. But it gets really confusing when you watch guys like us who have very strong preferences. I'm very tempted to be like, can I just have your watch? Give me your watch. And that's
Right,
good. Like,
right.
follow WristDaddy, give him money, and he'll happily give you his watch. But also, like,
Yeah.
selling the philosophy of no, 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 like, definitely okay, check out my watches, but also experiment with different things, see what resonates, see what eras. Because I'm a neo vintage guy doesn't mean you're a neo vintage guy too.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
it's harder pill to swallow because it doesn't like immediately in a capitalistic world sell. It's not very
Right.
sexy because it is
Yeah.
you're the 80-year-old man now, and now you've got your shit figured out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I love that you said balance, and that's critical, right? So yeah, there are and that's kind of the way the system works, like tribe mentality. There's a chief usually, and the chief is like, we're going to migrate here because yada yada, and people are like, yeah, right? And then there's going to be those few people who are like, no, right? Like we just see that in like, millions of years of evolution of, humanity. Um, but when it comes to more like I think I think a lot of these things also resonate from like a deeper, like you touched on this earlier in the chat of like sense of stability or security, I think is the word that you said. And like there's a side of me that I know so intimately and so deeply that no matter what sort of circumstance I'm confronted with, that side of me will not change. And what allows me, that familiarity with that side of me allows me to explore all the other sides of life and myself without fear of disrupting my core-ness. And so it's actually really interesting because something as superficial as watches could be used as a mirror to reflect something so much deeper. So I think at the beginning of every conversation, like the first question that when someone comes to me and they're like, "Hey, I get this a lot. I want to buy my first watch from you. What should I buy?" And my first question is like, "Who are you?" Not like who are you in my DMs, like, but it's like who are you? Like, are you someone who aspires to be athletic? Are you someone who aspires to be more poetic? Are you like there's all these things that go in, and I'm asking the question so that they can hear themselves talk out loud and build that visual representation, that character of themselves into a purchase, right? Because if they're like, yeah, like I don't like to fuss, I don't like this, I don't like that, then a watch like this where you wake up every morning and mechanically wind, that's not the one for you. Like go get the 49.99 awesome quartz with the alarm and the chrono, and it looks super sexy with like 90% of the outfits, and
Or
like
better
that's
yet, run into you in the streets and say, Josh,
and
that's a
just
really
say,
nice watch
that's a sick
you're
watch.
wearing. He will happily
Yeah.
give it to you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a yeah. So it's a that's a good
Yeah.
question, man.
Well, I think exactly what you're saying. It's a lot of wearing something that feels like you own it versus it owns you.
Hmm,
And it's
great
harder
way to
to
put it.
understand unless you've been there, you've wasted some money, you've put something on, and you've made some mistakes. Has there been any times where you have put on a watch either immediately or months preceding it, realize this just ain't me,
Oh
and
yeah.
you learn something in the process? Okay, so what was that watch for you? What did it look like?
It was Oh man, I mean, it's happened a few times. Let me see if I can find like the most painful experience. Um, yeah, 41 millimeter date just, and it was just like at the time it was more about like wearing a Rolex, like it's superficial, right? And then over time just felt like this isn't it. Like it wears too big, it wears too clunky. For me, for my take. And I have like a decent sized wrist, I think, based off of human factors. Like it's average for a guy, and like so what was weird is like I would see someone else wear the watch, and I'd be like, we have like the same wrist size. Like, why does it look so much better on them than me? And then I realized that it wasn't really the size. It was more along the lines of like I was in it for the wrong reasons. Like I just wanted to have that Rolex Datejust. And so then I ended up with a 36 millimeter Rolex Datejust. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is so much more me. Like I should have been more patient. I should have waited, like done more research, like and then the 41 was like this, an opportunity with some trades, yada yada. So yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't that. Luckily for me, like the lesson wasn't too expensive because the that watch specifically was an easy sell. Um, but yeah, like realizing that the label or the brand wasn't the secret sauce I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any Rolexes in your personal collection now?
Yeah, I do. I have one that my dad gave me, and then I have both of my Rolexes are gifts. So I helped a friend start a business. I worked in business dev for around a decade, and I helped a friend start a business, and it took off pretty well. And he gave me this gorgeous 36 millimeter P. It's like it's got the Explorer dial on it, so it's got the 3, the 6, and the 9 on it, but it's the Oyster Perpetual, so it's more like minimal. It's very cool. It's kind of like a contemporary like tool watch, but it's still very elegant. And then I have my GMT, which my pops gave me like in a moment of like graduating college and like, hey, you're turning into a little rock star, like good job, sort of thing. So that's like one of the things that like will stay in the those two will stay in the collection, for a long, long time.
If you had all the money in the world, is there any watch that you simply still couldn't justify spending money on?
Oh yeah, anything over like $15,000 and my brain just starts to melt. And it's not like a judgmental thing. I grew up in the projects. I grew up like pretty frugal and like mom and me like had a great life, but like we were figuring stuff out. And so like it wasn't until I was like 19 that things started to click for my family where like we could like do vacations and stuff like that. Like and so like I don't know if that's just like a mentality that I have. And there's zero judgment. Like I definitely think that there's a lot of watches out there that just based off of rarity or whatever, the price tag that they demand is the price tag they demand. Like that's totally fine. But yeah, anything above like $15,000 and for me personally, I'm just like like sheesh. I don't know if I could like justify that. And 15,000 is still a lot. Like most of the watches that I wear are like a couple $100, Like so the Cartier Tank AV is around 15 and that's my grail. I'm like one day, when I've really made it, I'm gonna go buy that, like that'll be my I did it achievement moment.
Yeah. Do you think it would have the same sweetness to it if you were given it versus if you had successfully
Mm,
landed your
earned
business
it.
and made some money,
Yeah.
spent it,
I
go to
really
explore?
enjoy earning things, but I also really enjoy gifts. So I think, yeah,
Same, brother.
I th yeah, yeah, I think that the sweetness would be equally as like palatable, you know, but it would definitely be like if someone bought me that watch, I'd probably like it would probably mean that they and I have some sort of very deep, rich interaction, and in a sense that was built and earned and worked for, yada yada. And then if I earned it because, you know, the business is like really scaling and things are going well, then that has that earned and worked for. So in a way, it's kind of the same. But like, yeah, if someone showed up and was like, dude, I was really moved to like, I'd be like, well, thank you. On the wrist it goes right
Yeah.
away.
Man, I hear about these OnlyFans girls just getting these very benefactor sort of gentlemen to give them thousands of dollars. And there's got to be guys like for you and I who also are just very generous with their income and have just tax write-off money to be given us. Anybody listening?
Yeah.
The tank
Yeah. If you
coffee.
guys are listening, we'll create a list.
PayPal link in the bio.
Only gifts.
Very good. Start the URL. Buy it up, boys.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah, there's yeah, I've actually that whole world fascinates me, man. Like the do you ever watch those podcasts? I love listening to these OnlyFans girls like yap about their lifestyle. They're like sitting there and they're like, "How much did you make last month?" And she's like, "I made like 14 million." And I'm just like, "Oh, like whoa,
I haven't,
crazy."
it hasn't crossed my radar. I didn't know that it really exists, but I find that tremendously inspiring too, because one, I do not begrudge anybody for like squirrels got to get their nuts, but it's also so empowering of like, man, they work hard, but like I'm working pretty hard too. So there isn't some kind of rule in the universe that you must work harder than I'm currently working to see the outcome that you want. And that then seems to give me peace of mind that, okay, I'm doing enough at least. So instead of putting my foot farther on the gas, maybe I just need to think smarter because this girl, man, you can make $14 million a month showing off your asshole, then
Yeah.
you got things figured out. I sit on the floor, I take notes, I'm listening, I'm very interested.
Yeah, yeah, it's super fascinating. The one of the most interesting ones was it was like, you know, girls who have different rules of what they do, what they won't do. One of them was like she's partnered and so they make content, her, and they're anonymous, nobody knows. And then the one girl that was like really fascinating to me, not based off of interest, but based off of the opposite of like total lack of understanding, and she's just railing in the cash, man, was like people who want her to essentially squish things with her feet, like a cake, bananas, oranges, you know, rotten pies and stuff. And I mean, like, one of her best months was like several $100,000. And like, yeah, I'm like, that's so fascinating. Like, do I need to go get my toenails, like my toes waxed and like paint my toenails and start stepping on like rotten bananas? Maybe my Cartier tank will come much sooner then.
Yeah, I'd almost be rather given that knowing then that that's where the money had come from though. But that's also
You're
so
like, oh,
awesome.
I don't want to wear this anymore. Like, did you wash it? Yeah, yeah.
I
Where did
think in
this
this
conversation go?
I think the important lesson here is because this has now become an economics podcast, in the times of AI where all of our jobs are going to be taken, we must consider what value that we have to provide as a human and ones that robots cannot take over for us.
Mm, yeah.
And in the matter of taste, aside from banana smashing, I think that's also something that like I get so much satisfaction learning from you and following your journey. WristDaddy, give them a follow on Instagram. But
Thank you.
the matter of taste, it's something that I really haven't been able to put my finger on. And I'm always delighted when people ask me questions and think that I've got things figured out. But man, have you figured it out?
No. And I think that's all the fun. I think that's all the fun is the question, is the journey, is the process of like, why do I like this? That's a great question. Why don't I like something? And very few people will dive into that voluntarily because it's a void, it's a black hole, and you're left with just more whys than anything. But yeah, the and when I thought I had it figured out was mostly just me being like pretty immature and like full of myself. So, you know, like it's one thing to throw something on and be like, man, like this is for me. It's another thing to throw something on and be like, man, everybody needs to like be like this, you know? So yeah. Yeah,
I, I
it's a constant journey.
I like what you said though. Like, first question is, do you like it? Second question, do you like it? That's a
Right.
very valuable takeaway from this. And Josh, it's been a huge pleasure talking to you. You have,
Yeah, this is
I
fun.
think, developed like a really good foundation for guys, regardless of where they are with their watch journey, understanding that it's not just a matter of you told me, Mr. Wrist Daddy, to buy this watch, I'm going to buy this watch. There is a thought process behind it too. However, without any hedging, I want a very definitive answer from you right now. Say the bro listening to this has no clue about watches within a reasonable budget. Let's say, like, still from an economics perspective, a cheap watch. What could he buy right now that if you saw it on his wrist, you'd be like, fist bump. You got respect from me. What's that watch?
Yeah. One sec. I'm gonna give you the exact reference number.
We're getting a visual.
Pause.
Thank you.
Pause. Yeah.
I hope everybody's having a nice day right now, wherever you are. You getting your steps in while you're listening to this? You on the road? I hope traffic is okay. Sipping my cold brew. I'm about to go to the gym after this podcast with Joshua.
Me too, bro. I wish we could hit a workout.
Come to LA, or I'm gonna come to your way. We'll make it happen.
So this bad boy right here,
Of
like
course.
this
That's
is
clean.
known, yeah, this is known in the world of watches as like, in my opinion, the undeniably okay for every occasion. I've seen this on the red carpet in a tuxedo and tank tops in the gym. It's water resistant. It's got a little light that, you know, you can check the time at night. This is the Casio. This is the Casio. Dude, these numbers are wild. Casio A158WE. They make this watch in several different variants. Stainless steel. It's very similar to the one that you're wearing. This is
Yeah, this is
a little bit bigger.
because, okay, somebody would probably see that and very easily confuse it with this. I'm guessing, so I'm looking it up online. So you said 158WE. Okay, so still sells, geez, on Casio's website for $39. So same, if not cheaper than what I just looked up on what I'm wearing on Amazon. But do you think then I kind of get confused because there is like this same silhouette, but in so many different SKUs. What is specifically good about this watch?
For me, this watch really strikes the like goated colorway, green and gold. I don't know if you can see like this little like the font and this little like bezel thing that goes around the watch is this nice forest green color. And green and gold is just like a very attractive colorway to me. So specifically this one is the one that I personally love to wear. But like you said, there's so many variants of this watch that are just so attractive, so affordable, and by far my most complimented and purchased watch because um, it's such a winner. So I like this one personally because of the green and gold. But if gold isn't your thing, you can get it in blue and silver, and that's also a super nice combo.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at the silver one right now. It's really sexy. If any of my benefactors want to send me $40, I will buy it right now. Thank you, OnlyFans creators. Dude, I love the mix of practical, philosophical. Like, this is exactly what I like. I'm so delighted to finally get to do this and chat, man.
Likewise.
We
This is
gotta
cool.
connect very soon, but I'm gonna be continuing to follow your journey. I'm super excited. You got your own watch line coming up soon, right?
Yes, yeah, it's been the dream for a long
Congratulations.
time, and thank you so much. We're going slowly, and I'm trying to sort of hedge my bets by doing a collab or two first before I launch my own fully internal. I don't know anything about manufacturing or any of that, so I'm sort of, yeah, we're doing a little bit of a collab with Mombri, so that should be out really soon, and I'm super hype on it. Yeah.
Wrist Daddy, give him a follow. By the way, too, I love the historical information that you give too. It's not just a one-stop shop. Like, give me the watch to buy. You're educating the guys, the ladies out there who are not just interested in the like quick hits of dopamine, because the history behind watches are fascinating. So you're doing such a good job with that too, man.
Thank you. Likewise, man. Huge, huge fan. Every time Cinema Gravy, I get a notification. I'm like, share, 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 share. Like.
Thank you, brother.